Hey guys, so we've given you our review of Flash Season 3A and all of its terribleness. So we've decided we're going to show you how we, at Magnanimous, we would do for Flash Season 3B, and what route we would take it, and how we would fix the dying series.
Okay, we're not going to go into much detail, but we will do a brief summary of how we do it. Well, firstly, Barry would figure a way to save Iris from Savitar, and there would be a massive battle that goes badly. Savitar would start killing people, and they would tear through buildings and destroying houses. Barry would then beg Savitar to stop. Savitar would tell him he would leave him alone if Barry never used the Speed Force again. Barry agrees, but Savitar warns him that if he breaks the deal, there would be massive consequences. The next episode, we get Barry doing CSI work and some cool Kid Flash scenes where he's using his powers and training, as well as Barry and Iris scenes. Near the end, Barry hears about a burning building and two people are stuck, and he at first is reluctant, but Iris convinces him, and while he is busy saving other people. Barry then goes to the house and runs in, and we get this great slow-mo scene where he's running through the house trying to find them, and there's like pieces of the house falling down. He's like diving underneath, and he's like running up the walls and stuff, and then he finds them and he gets them out. And then at the end of the episode, where Barry and Iris are just hanging out at their apartment, sitting on the couch, Iris gets up and walks to the bathroom. She then looks at the mirror, and then you get this drop of blood coming from her nose. She looks down and then looks back up at the camera, and that's when it ends.
Now, following this, for the next 2 or 3 episodes, it's just Barry doing, saving people from just small petty crimes. Maybe 1 or 2 of them might include a metahuman here and there, but I just want Flash to go back to its roots, alright? None of this overarching villain shit that lasts for a full season. None of that. I just want next couple episodes, just sort of filler, okay? He keeps just stopping small crimes like bank robberies, all this stuff, couple metahumans. That's fine with me. And a few times each episode we see Iris deteriorating more and more and more. Like she's starting to look a bit thinner, like a bit of blood, more blood dripping from her nose. She's a bit ghostly. And at the end of the 4th episode, she's at work, like the end credit scene of the 4th episode, Iris is at work and she just passes out. The camera zooms out as everyone at her work starts to surround around her, and then it ends. Okay, so then the next episode is going to start on the same day, but with Barry going to Iris's work as one of her workmates call him. He runs there as fast as he can, and she's already been taken off in the ambulance. So Barry is starting to freak out, thinking, what the hell's happening with Iris? He is absolutely panicking. So then he decides to race alongside the ambulance until she gets to the hospital. As she's pulled out on a stretcher into the hospital, Barry is right by her side, and she's talking. She's conscious now, but she still looks very weak. And Barry's asking what's wrong, what's happening with the doctors, and the doctor's saying, we just got to get her inside. We got to run some tests on her. And Barry is still really fritzing out. He's all shaking and crying and stuff. But then a couple hours pass, and then she's in her hospital bed. Barry's alongside her. They're just talking about nothing. And then Barry's talking about what they're going to do when they leave hospital, where they're going to go for the honeymoon and stuff, some new furniture and stuff they might buy. Just small talk. Just small stuff that's real heartfelt, real emotional. That's all I want. And then Barry decides he's going to stay at the hospital overnight, and he waits out in the hallway in a chair. The next morning, he wakes up, he goes and gets 2 cups of coffee. He walks into Iris's room, and he looks at her bed, and there's nothing there. He drops both the cups of coffee, and there's a nurse at the bed. And he says, where is she? Have they moved her? And she says, no, I'm sorry, she passed away in her sleep. Barry just stands there, dead cold. He doesn't move, he doesn't blink, he's just standing there, almost as if time has just stopped. And then he just starts running. In his normal clothes, he just sprints. And he just runs down the main street, and he creates a portal, like a time portal, faster than he has ever done it before. As he is running at almost his fastest speed he's ever gone. He is running through the time portal, and he's just saying over and over and over in his head, I have to save her, I have to save her. He keeps saying it, he's running, and he sees in the distance a real bright red flash, and he goes, "What is that?" And then it's getting closer and closer, and then he sees his symbol, and he gets spear tackled out of the time portal vortex thing. He's knocked unconscious as he hits his head on the pavement as he comes out of the portal. He wakes up and sees himself. He sees a Flash who looks a bit older. His suit's a bit more worn. It's been stitched up in places. It's got holes and all that stuff. And then he says, "Who are you?" The figure takes off its mask, and it's Barry. About 60-ish. He's past his prime. He looks a bit more like Jay Garrick now. Actually, vaguely familiar, as like his same DNA and stuff. So he looks a lot older. And then the older Barry starts breaking down in tears as well. He says, "I remember this. This is the day she died." And Barry just can't handle himself, the younger one. He's just curled up in a ball. He is just completely out of it. He's saying, "I have to save her. I have to go back." And Barry just says, "There's nothing we can do." Older Barry, he says, "There's nothing we can do. We can't stop this. We can defeat any villain we want, no matter how hard we try. But things like this, we just can't stop." And they have a really heartfelt moment, almost father to son, like sort of like similar to the cafe scene in the second episode of season 3 with Jay and Flash, except a few more tears and a bit more sad. And older Barry decides he finally gets through. It's about a 10-minute long scene. He finally gets through to young Barry, and Barry understands that they can't do this again. Old Barry says, "We tried this once. We tried saving Mum. It didn't work." You could almost see the guilt in both of their eyes. He says, "The repercussions would just be too much. We can't try this again." He says, the older one says, "I never tried." He said, "When I was you, the older version of myself appeared," and as this conversation's going, "We can't do it." So young Barry accepts it. He just decides they can't do it. And then as younger Barry starts to run away, he hears his older version say, "You need to go now. He's coming." Barry doesn't get time to ask, as he's already through the portal back to his own time, as they're about 2 or 3 weeks in the past. So Barry arrives at his own time, goes back to the hospital, and and Joe, Cisco, Wally, everyone at the Flash team is all there, and Barry breaks the news to them, and they all have the exact same reaction as Barry. They're all just stunned and frozen.
We then get a nice funeral scene that's very emotional. Everyone's crying. Okay, you got the typical black umbrellas and rain, the usual stuff. He then goes back home to his apartment and he finds a little note on the table, and he opens it up and he finds out it's from Iris, and it's like a new design for the Flash suit. It's brighter. It's got armor because she doesn't want him to get hurt. It's got a nicer color of yellow and a better fabric. And that's what inspires him to make a new suit. Later in that episode, Cisco opens a portal into the police station, and he looks through the files, and he finds the Dante file, and he finds out that Dante was like super depressed. He like was cutting himself. He got super drunk and was like abusing drugs. And he also finds a suicide note, and you find out that Dante actually killed himself, and he purposely like pulled the wheel into another car to commit suicide. And Cisco's crying, okay, and then when he goes back and he finds Barry, he like forgives him and everything. He's like crying the entire time. It's super emotional. Now, these suggestions aren't exactly specific to an individual episode, but more just suggestions throughout the season 3B. So we'll start off with Caitlin can use her powers now, and she doesn't become a psycho evil murderer, and she just becomes a minor hero who occasionally helps out. Cisco goes back to his old self. He cracks a smile. He's joking. You got some witty play, and he starts naming villains and stuff again. Also, Wally, he stops becoming so annoying and stops whinging. He mends his relationship with Joe. This is what I've wanted for Wally West the entire time he's been in The Flash. I've always wanted him to have the silver and red armored suit from the New 52. I think that belongs to Wally West, not trying to make him go into the yellow suit, which I think belongs to the white Wally West. I think you should make him his own character. And also he does develop his powers and he like starts saving people and he stops becoming so annoying and cocky, he runs off to his own city, and occasionally, like when something big happens, runs back and helps Barry.
So now the next annoying character we're going to try and get rid of, and hopefully they actually do this next season, or next half of the season, is Harrison Wells from Earth 19. He is such a stupid, annoying character who is literally just there to give these crack-ass jokes that are so annoying. Like, he just literally cracked puns, and somehow he's the smartest of the whole group every time, coming up with the idea how they're going to defeat the new villain this week. And one of his ideas that actually worked, which I was surprised from last season, was just turn on the lights. That's just how stupid this character is. I don't know, hopefully, we were hoping that he just gets hit by a bus. Like, we'd be fine with that. Like, I can't really see any other way of him being removed as a character. Like, maybe he has a heart attack from all that coffee drinking and stuff. I don't know. One thing we're going to see a return of is Barry actually becoming, like, using his CSI capabilities again, instead of, like, last season, which he did, like, nothing at all. Like, we're going to see him actually being a cop and, like, actually on crime scenes and, like, actually earning a paycheck instead of just, like, once or twice he's just rocked up, looked at there, and then gone away, which was really stupid about the first half of last season. And then the season finale is going to just be another episode, no huge overarching villain. They just defeat, maybe the season finale can be a two-parter with the second last episode with just some, I don't know, some metahuman that can control, I don't know, just some two-parter, and then they defeat them. The last scene of the last episode is everyone back in headquarters of Flash in Star Labs, and a portal opens, a breach, and runs through, and who runs through? Jesse Quick and Harrison Wells of Earth 2, I think it was? Yeah, they run through. Jesse is carrying Wells, who's got huge big teeth marks in his chest. She runs him over to a bed in which Caitlin just starts trying to, like, save him, like stitching him together. Flash runs up to Jesse and says, "What's wrong?" The camera turns to Jesse's face, and she just says one word, "Grodd." And then the season ends. Now, we just think this would be an awesome end for season 3, as season 4 could just focus on maybe doing a guerrilla warfare storyline or an adaptation of that from the comic books, like maybe only making that half a season. And also, when older Barry was talking in earlier the season, he says he's coming. At first, we thought maybe that could refer to Gorilla Grodd, but we've actually changed our mind and decided that the overarching villain for Season 4 could just be an older version of Barry, younger than the one that we saw, younger than the older version of Barry, so not 60, we're thinking around mid-40s. Something's going to happen when he's around that age. We're thinking Star Labs could just get destroyed, and it's Barry's fault, so he decides to go back in time, following the out-of-time story arc, where he tries to kill himself, his younger version of himself, to stop all that from happening. We at Magnanimous just thought that would be a great 2 story arcs for Season 4, for the first half to be based on guerrilla warfare, with them traveling to the other dimension and the other Earth, trying to fight all the gorillas off, and Grodd and stuff. And then the second half be focusing on the Blue Flash, full armored. So now we at Magnanimous think that would be a perfect way for them to do the second half of Season 3 and even do a Season 4, as we've given them the 2 villains. So I'm Mossy.
And this is Farmer.
And this is Magnanimous. See yous.
Also, please check out our other videos and like and subscribe. It would be a great help to us to support this new channel. And thank you very much.